So let me go ahead and briefly introduce our next speakers. We have Gina Deom, who is the Director for Research and Analytics at the Indiana Commission of Higher Education, also known there as the data person, and you'll see why shortly. We also have Barbie Martin, who is the Director of School and Community Outreach for the 21st Century Scholars Program, and in a former role was the 21st Century Scholars Regional Outreach Coordinator in the Southwest region of Indiana. And last but not least is Jarod Wilson, who is the Director of Postsecondary Outreach and Career Transitions. And in a former role as well was a Regional Outreach Coordinator for the East region of Indiana. So I'll turn it over now to Gina, Barbie, and Jarod to talk more about the 21st Century Scholars Program.
Hi, everyone. You've already heard a little bit about the 21st Century Scholars Program, but we want to give you a little more background. It was established in 1990 to help income-eligible Hoosier students pay up to 4 years of tuition at eligible Indiana institutions. And what that means, obviously, is a public institution, but we do pay partial tuition at private and proprietary institutions as well.
And just in full disclosure as well, I actually am a graduate of the 21st Century Scholarship Program as well, so I'm an alum with Billy Joe. And so I wanted to also, I'm where I am today partially because of this program as well. So a few more enrollment requirements. These have changed slightly over the 26, 27 years that we've been around, but in order to enroll in the 21st Century Scholarship Program, they have to enroll in 7th or 8th grade. And they have to be enrolled in a high school or middle school that is public or private, but it has to be accredited by the state of Indiana Department of Education. They have to be Indiana residents. They have to be U.S. citizens or eligible non-citizens. And then they also have to meet some eligibility requirements in terms of income. And we base those guidelines on the free and reduced lunch guidelines. So they don't have to be in the free and reduced lunch program, but they have to be eligible for it.
There are some requirements to get the scholarship beyond being income eligible. These are the current requirements. You're going to see a little later some changes that have happened through the history. But for students right now who are graduating, going into college, they have to have at least a 2.5 cumulative GPA, and that is on a 4-point scale. They have to file the FAFSA their senior year by the state deadline, which is April 15th for Indiana. They must earn a minimum of a Core 40 diploma. There are honors diplomas that count as well, but Core 40 is the minimum. And they have to complete the Scholar Success Program, which we'll show in more detail later, but that includes a pledge of good citizenship.
And then once they hit the college level, it's not just like, here's your money, go ahead and go to college. They do still have to continue doing, meeting some basic requirements there currently. So they do have to continue filing FAFSA by our state deadline, which is April 15th of each year. They have to earn at least 30 credits per year. There are some ways around that. If they took some dual credits in high school, or there's what's called a bank. So if they don't hit that 30, they can pull them from that. And then they also have to maintain SAP or satisfactory academic progress on the college campuses. Some legislation was actually just passed in Indiana about a month ago, where we are looking into a college level Scholar Success Program. So we don't have a lot of information about that right now, but there would be some additional requirements that are probably going to take effect in the next couple of years.
Historically, as we said, the program began in 1990, so it was established legislatively at that point. In 1995, the first cohort of 21st Century Scholars actually enrolled in college. So since they enroll in 7th or 8th grade, there was that lag in between the establishment and the first college cohort. You can see there's not a lot changed with the program for several years between 1995 and 2001, but in 2011, we created the Scholar Success Program to address some of the issues that students were having with being successful in college. Then in 2012, Scholar Corps was launched on 10 campuses, 17 currently, to help college-level scholars with any kind of obstacles they might find on those campuses. They were a source of support, information, mentorship to those students on those campuses.
In 2013, we created the credit completion requirements for all state financial aid recipients, not just 21st Century Scholars. So another large state program we have is called the Franco-Bannon Grant, and they have to complete at least 24 credit hours a year. As a 21st Century Scholar, they have to complete 30 credits. In 2014, we deployed some college success coaches around the state on 25 Indiana campuses. And then in 2015, is the first year that high school graduates had to have that 2.5 GPA. And we also launched an AmeriCorps Vista program in 6 communities around the state to help in the high school and middle school side of things. And then last year, the class of 2017 was the first high school class that was required to complete the Scholar Success program in order to be eligible for the scholarship once they got to college.
I know it's a little small to see, but here you can see the basic graphic. There are 12 total activities, 3 each year of high school, and they're all designed to help students plan, prepare, and pay for college. Some of these are things students would be doing anyway, like I said, filing the FAFSA that's required for financial aid as a senior, submitting an application to college. Others are more activity-based, preparing and participating in extracurricular activities, getting workplace experience, and then others are videos that are just simply informational, trying to provide students with as much information going into college as possible.
So just a little bit about the program impact and statistics. There are over 100,000 students that are currently enrolled in the program from 7th grade all the way through college, and even they have 8 years from activating their scholarship to actually be able to use it. So that goes into those 8 years after high school. About 20,000 students are using the scholarship each year. We give out, or last year, we gave out $161 million in 21st Century Scholars funds to cover tuition and fees. And then since the program has been implemented, we've had over 85,000 total students that have received the scholarship, and over $1.3 billion have been distributed to cover tuition fees for students. So it's a large bipartisan movement from the state to continue keeping this program going.
In the pilot year, the Scholar Success Program, this is where we landed at the end. You can see the individual percentages for each of the activities. You can see that the junior and senior level activities proved to be more challenging for some students. Probably the most difficult was taking SAT, ACT. There was a lot of resistance with that with students who are going to community colleges who didn't require an SAT or ACT, but the scholarship, the legislation requires that they take it to earn their scholarship. On that, those students are eligible for a fee waiver to take that test, and so there is no fee to them, no cost to them to take the SAT or ACT. It's just about the experience of it. You can see a county by county breakdown. We ended at 67% statewide for completing all 12 activities. As of yesterday, we are at 58% statewide, which is actually ahead of pace for where we were at this time last year. So hopefully that will keep trending that way. We'll actually end with a higher percentage this year in our second year than we did with the pilot year.
And students have until June 30th to complete the activities.
Yes.
Here's a little bit of historical context. So in the past, students only had to complete what was called a student or senior affirmation once they graduated, so 2010 through about 2014. Then we started seeing the 2.5 GPA in 2015, the requirement hit there. And then in 2017, that's when the Scholar Success Program hit, and we're seeing an upward trend, and it's actually continuing upward this year. As Barbie was saying, we're already at 58% who have completed those Scholar Success Program activities for this year, and we still have a couple months before they're required to be completed. So we did see a little drop there, but based on historical context, they're doing more activities and still succeeding and still completing at pretty high rates.
And then after eligibility, in terms of being qualified for receiving the scholarship, to see how scholars are doing once they get into college, we match our K through 12 data to our college enrollment data to look how students are performing. And when we look at scholars compared to low-income students, they're much more likely to enroll in college. Scholars in the 2015 cohort, 81% of them enrolled in college within 1 year of graduation, compared to 39% of low-income students, and those who aren't scholars but qualified for free and reduced lunch. Likewise, they're more likely than low-income students to also earn higher GPAs, more likely to persist to their second year, and are actually also more likely to complete a degree on time. So compared to low-income students, scholars are doing very, very well. Then we also compare those students to the overall student population. And one thing that we have noticed is that by far for college access, scholars are beating everyone, all Indiana students as well as low-income students. But once they trickle into college, we see sort of the gap in terms of success narrow a little bit. For GPA and retention, it's always within 1 to 3 percentage points from the overall below. But then once we got to completion, the gap was about 5 to 7 percentage points lower than the overall average. However, we have seen the most recent improvement with our scholars with some recent policies that have went through. For instance, with the change to the policy requiring students to complete 30 or more credit hours, we have seen a 15 percentage point increase in the percentage of students who are completing 30 or more credits in that first year. And now the scholars actually outpace the general population with regards to that. So as those cohorts begin to trickle into completion, we're going to see some significant progress. And already we've seen a 7 percentage point increase in on-time completion rates for scholars at both of our sectors. And again, with this push to now have college level SSP activities, that's going to help this as well. So I'm talk about outreach a little bit.
Go ahead and go to the next slide.
Okay.
In order to help students, I say statewide, you know, Jarod gave that number, 100,000 students statewide from 7th grade to college level scholars. We have a regional outreach staff. You can see the color-coded regions. Marion County is a single county region just simply because it's the most densely populated. The others are fairly equal, even though they may not look that way. So we have 8 regional outreach coordinators that work directly for the commission who live in those areas and work with schools and students there. We have 4 outreach office staff members, Jarod and myself and 2 others. And then we have the Scholar Corps members I mentioned on the campuses, the VISTA members. We have scholar ambassadors and alumni who are former 21st Century Scholars who volunteered to work with the program. And then we mentioned the college success posters before.
That's what you're right. And then we also obviously partner with our K-12 schools, colleges, lots of community partners around the state. We have several college success coalitions, which are groups of people in individual counties that are working together to promote college success. And then we obviously partner with a lot of state agencies like the Department of Education and Workforce Development and those other agencies around the state.
These next couple slides we'll go through very, very quickly because our time's running out. But we do have some things that we promote, that we encourage partners, our staff to do statewide. We have Scholar Success Days, labs. In a lot of schools, upperclassmen help underclassmen. In some schools, the performance goals are part of counselor evaluations, which has really helped increase those numbers. You can see here as an example, we did actually just this past weekend did this event again, Scholar Success Day in Fort Wayne and all the surrounding counties, and we had almost 1,000 students and their parents then who came to this event.
And also, we provide a lot of data dashboards on our website as well as scholar scorecards for counselors and community partners to go in to see for their county and their individual school how students are doing and meeting these activities along the way. And we also, again, post these rates comparing scholars, non-scholars, low income, and all Indiana students through some of those entering college metrics and during college metrics, and available at the school and county and state level. And more information is also provided on our website in terms of data resources. So now we're going to turn it back over to Billy.